Well, good afternoon, Mr. President, distinguished participants in this third edition of our Power Launch, PR Power Launch series. I'm excited to specially welcome our guest speaker, a very renowned expert in artificial intelligence in PR, Celestine Achi. I'm also happy to welcome the Chief Operating Officer of Reputation Perceptions, the person of Olusegun Adeni James. I believe that with 27 people in the house, we can commence this conversation. More people will join us. You will recall that the PR Power Launch series was introduced 2 months back, specifically actually in June during the last activities. You would also recall that we took the first one and then the second a week later.
This meeting is being recorded.
The first was the very exciting report on ethics, PR and ethics in Africa. We also looked at the EDEMA report. Today, we are looking at a brand new initiative, which is new with respect to the fact that the first product is what we are celebrating today. But it's an initiative that has been there for more than 4 years. We're happy that the Nigerian Institute of Public Relations is part of this very interesting, which of course has been on the list of public relations practitioners and consultants, particularly to see whether we can indeed effectively measure reputation of entities, whether we can effectively measure perception of entities. And this is what necessitated the search, first by Right Angle PR for a framework. And of course, it led to the partnership between Right Angle PR and the Nigerian Institute of Public Relations. I believe that we would not only receive this report, but would engage with the presenter, would also take it from this level to the next level so that we can ensure that public relations practitioners are able to deploy this framework in a way that they will get insights that can help them to be more effective in the management of brands. Without further waste of time, let me invite the president of the Nigerian Institute of Public Relations, who of course has provided us platform for this partnership. He has also provided us a lot of support in ensuring that this partnership actually saw to the birth of this product, which was indeed unveiled on the 27th of June, 2024, during the Diamond Anniversary Dinner and Awards event at Transcorp Hilton. Mr. President, you may please wish to give us your opening remarks, and thereafter we'll move on to the Chief Operating Officer of the Reputation Perception Services, who will equally give us some is Dr. Ike Neliaku, who is also our Chairman of Council and Fellow of the Institute. You're welcome, sir.
Thank you very much, Vice President of the Institute, council members here with us, fellows in the House, distinguished colleagues. It's my pleasure to welcome all of you to this afternoon's lunch. Of course, lunch is always served in the afternoon. But I would like to particularly welcome two important gentlemen that are joining us this afternoon. One of them is Andras Stanislav, who is the Chief Executive Officer, International Communications Consultancy Organization, ICO. We are very delighted that you found the time to join us. And also His Excellency Ambassador Zubairu Dada, Nigeria's immediate past Minister of State for Foreign Affairs, a fellow of the Institute, as well as other distinguished colleagues who are here with us this afternoon. This is part of the reforms that the NIPR is bringing to the sector. We are looking at the subject matter of perception and reputation, two essential parts of our profession. We are beginning to hold leaders accountable. You will recall that we had said that public relations is no longer enough to be described as a profession for a few people who are officers. We are also not satisfied. We are now saying that public relations is a profession for leaders, because leaders who understand the essence of leadership would realize very clearly that they can no longer do without public relations. And this is why we are emphasizing this fact in very clear terms. Today, we are going to look at just an aspect of this big ocean of reputation, perception, management. We are looking at the aspect of governance in the civil system. And of course, we are looking specifically at the governors of the 36 states of the Federation to see how they have fared. This study, this survey, this indexing will eventually get into the other aspects of leadership, and then get into the corporate world, get into the civil society as the case may be, and then get into the communities. We are glad that after 4 years of hard work, we can now present to the world an all-encompassing strategic measurement drive for reputation and perception. Thank you very much, Vice President, for chairing this team that have been able to work so hard to midwife what we are here to celebrate today. And we do hope that this will be a great opportunity for those in leadership to take advantage of this opportunity being offered to them to renew, review, reform, and reinvent their reputation with their various constituents. Thank you very much, Vice President. Back to you.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Sorry, permit me to welcome some of the commissioners of information who are with us on this platform. We welcome all of you. I will not be able to mention all the names individually, but so that we welcome all of you very well. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. The House is getting full. I can also see Professor Rotimi Olatunji, who is, of course, the chair of the book committee with ALCOM, and also a very strong member of the Institute. We will move straight now to learning about the organization that is providing this service. And that is Reputation Perception Services. The Chief Operating Officer to hear from you before we'll invite the presentation of the report. Mr. Shegusa. We can't hear you. Your microphone is muted.
Oh, thank you very much, sir. Okay, let me start again. Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, the Chairman of RPS and the Vice President of anipr. And Mr. President as well, thank you very much for this opportunity. Want to welcome everyone once again to this call, all the commissioners and everyone present, distinguished gentlemen and ladies. Who are we actually? RPS. This is Reputation Perception Services. We are actually in the business of giving the people what they need to understand concerning reputation and perception. Just as Mr. President has said, reputation is everything, so is perception. And then we believe that as one of the key areas of public relations, this is one area that we want to track effectively and want to focus on. And we are actually committed to a very industry-wide report that's going to be tailored towards consultancy services. And we believe that with all that we have on ground for everyone, we are not just going to be talking to individuals or to institutions, but we'll also be talking to corporate brands, because we believe that the bottom line of every brand is a function of reputation and perception that is held by the consumers in the market. And this partnership we have, just like Mr. Vice President has said, is a strategic alliance that Right Angle PR is having with Nigerian Institute of Public Relations. And it's also our ambition of becoming a definitive authority in the perception and reputation management and measurement domain in Nigeria for us. We believe strongly that reputation and perception measurement lies in understanding how an entity is perceived by a stakeholder. And that for us is what we hold as one of our philosophies. That definitely we know that there's a place for public relations, but there's a place for reputation and perception management. We need to track it. We need to be able to know how it affects all of us. And this report that is going to be presented subsequently will also show that this issue of reputation and perception is something that we as practitioners, we should not in any way hold with levity, as the case is. And then what do we offer? Even today, we are going to be doing political reputation management or reports that we have put together. We're more into of corporate reputation measurement, brand perception analysis, public sector reputation analysis as well. We track and we audit for individuals as well as corporates, even brands that we work with, as it were, because for us, we believe that everything lies with reputation. If you are not reputable, definitely it will affect your bottom line. Definitely it will affect also your brand that you are building. Because for us, we need to track and we need to be able to manage effectively whatever it is that we have on ground. And this maiden report that is going to be presented shortly will really open our eyes to the stake that we have in terms of what reputation can actually do, if not well managed by the practitioners or the individuals or brands. So on this wise, I want to hand over back to the Vice President, who will call on the next presenter, Mr. Celestine Achi. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you so much, Mr. Shegun, the Chief Operating Officer of Reputation Perception Services. We appreciate the brief introduction you have given. We'll be happy if you can take off your slides. So at this point, we can welcome the lead speaker for today. He is in the person of Celestine Achi, a very renowned facilitator for those of us in Nigerian Institute of Public Relations, particularly in the area of artificial intelligence in public relations, also in the area of measurement. Mr. Achi is one of the technical partners on this project, working with the Reputation Perception Services. I also can see that his colleague, Temitope, is with us. And so I believe when we come to the Q&A, we would hear from the co-partner in this regard. The session after his presentation will be moderated by the chairperson of our Young Professionals Hub, in the person of Barrister Chimdi Neliaku. She will come in immediately after Celestine's presentation. She's just mentioned to me that she also has report from some of our international partners on this project. So it might likely be part of what she will present when she comes in to moderate the question and answer session. So, Mr. Celestine Achi, please go ahead. We can see your slide. Your microphone needs to be unmuted, sir. Yeah, then you can play your slide again. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Professor Daudera. Let me start by thanking the president of NIPR, Dr. Ike Neliaku, the vice president, all the council members here in present, fellows and distinguished colleagues. Good afternoon to everyone. So I'll be speaking to the report on the 2024 Political Governance Survey in Nigeria. And the focal point is the 36 state governors across the federation called Nigeria. The presentation is divided into 4 segments. I'm delighted to introduce the RPI framework, which we are going to see shortly. And then we will go into the research and methodology segment, then reveal the findings of the 2024 report on governance in Nigeria. Then we can now take questions and answer. Now I will go into the reputation perception index. Now, this product, 4 years of extensive cross-continent consultations and intensive research, 4 years of extensive cross-continent consultations and intensive research. We all know that a gap exists, not just in the Africa public relations space, but in the global public relations space. And this gap exists based on the lack of measuring tool or evaluation framework for perception and reputation. The proprietary rubric called Reputation Perception Index now allows us not just to evaluate reputation, but also to comprehensively evaluate perception using a set of algorithms that has been set, having 5 segments in the RPI framework that we are going to see shortly. The question is, what is the RPI framework? The RPI framework that you see right here on your slide is modeled on a globally validated and locally relevant drivers of reputation, having 5 pillars, 21 attributes, with its relative importance on each pillar, then having what I call the RPI score that is further divided into 2 segments, the rating segment and the score range segment. To put this in context, this lays the foundation of the algorithm that will be used not just to evaluate reputation and perception, but to also assess their impact on reputation. Let me start with the pillar of leadership, having a relative importance of 17.5%. Leadership, as we know, is the driving force behind visionary governance. It is accompanied with the ability to inspire, guide, and give a clear direction for the future. The attributes of vision, inspiration, governance, communication are the hallmarks of true leadership. And for us, this is a very clear, important pillar of reputation. Then we talk about performance pillar, having again a relative importance of 16.5%. Performance is a measure of an entity's success in fulfilling their promises and in meeting the needs of different stakeholder groups. It is characterized by attributes of being able to meet the needs of the stakeholders, differentiation, reliability, and quality of engagement. Then we look at the credibility pillar. Again, having a relative importance of 16.5% score. Credibility builds on the foundation of trust and competence between an entity and the stakeholders. So the attributes such as consistency, trustworthiness, the competence of this entity, and the strategic alliances that has been achieved becomes key strategic attributes to the pillar of credibility. Then we come to social equity, also having a relative importance of 16.5%. And social equity reflects its dedication to fairness and justice for everyone. It is embodied by positive impact, sustainability, and compliance elements in that regard. Then we come down to innovation. The innovation also has a relative importance of 16.5%. And we say innovation drives progress and modernization in governance with attributes such as creativity, adaptability, value creation, the ability to drive ideation stage to adoption stage. Remember, we had said that RPI is modeled on globally validated and locally relevant drivers of reputation. Culture becomes relevant in this case as a pillar of reputation and perception in order to make it locally relevant, having a relative importance of 16.5%. And here we say culture is the soul, the very soul of governance. And the values and ethics and fairness it embodies makes it unique on its own. Attributes such as cultural alignment, ethics, diversity, equity, and inclusion becomes relevant support pillars to the culture element of the RPI pillar. Then we come down to the RPI score. Like I said earlier, is divided into two segments. We have the rating segment. We have the weak reputation segment. We have the below the average segment. We have the steady reputation segment. We have the above average segment, and we have the excellent segment, all being predetermined by a score range. So the score range of 0 to 39 indicates a very weak reputation and perception. The score range from 40 to 59, again, reflects a below average reputation. And the score range of 60 to 69% truly indicates a steady reputation. Then we have the score range of 70 to 79 that indicates an above average reputation. The excellent reputation score range starts from 80 and above. And ladies and gentlemen, I present to you a unique proprietary RPI framework that can be used going forward, not just in Africa, but we dare say in the global public relations space to evaluate and assess perception and reputation. I will now go into the research and methodology segment. Like I said, RPS, otherwise known as the Reputation Perception Services, conducted a comprehensive survey to evaluate the reputation and perception of governance across the 36 states of Nigeria. Utilizing this RPI framework that we have just seen, the algorithm that makes it unique, based on 6 pillars of reputation that I have just explained and 21 attributes. And I will go straight into why we decided to focus on public governance, then talk about the expected outcome. The first reason or the first rationale is to evaluate the impact of governance of the state governors across the 36 states of the Federation. The second rationale is to showcase the perceptions and reputational standing of the various state governors by their governed in the last 1 year, public perception. Then We know, I mean, we all know that we just celebrated our Democracy Day. So the survey report, we believe, will refocus the state governors for greater strides to deliver on the promises they have made and dividends of democracy. We are all aware that most governors, if not all, have their agenda. For instance, the Lagos State governor has the Team Plus agenda. So other governors have their own agenda. We are hoping that this report will help them to refocus and re-engineer this aspect. What are the expected outcomes? One, we want to assess the level of gaps, if any, between the led, the followers, and the leaders, the governors in each state or the federation. Then we want to closely examine the perceptions of the led against some key pillars and indicate the sync between the state governors and the people. As we all know, perception, we say, is the lens through which we view reality. And reputation is the reflection of that perception. We can go further to say that the gap between perception and reality is where reputation is made or broken. Therefore, we want to analyze and identify gaps for immediate action by concerned parties towards engineering a more positive perception and greater reputational credits. Now, in carrying out this survey, some key and strategic questions were asked across the 6 pillars and across the 21 attributes. I will just take one of each just to give us an idea and put it in context. For instance, when it came to the issue of leadership, a question was asked: does your governor have a transparent system, process, and structure in place to ensure proper conduct in that particular state? We come to performance. We ask, how well does this governor meet your needs as a people? And how well does it meet your expectations on which basis he was elected? We come to the credibility pillar and the attributes therein. We ask, to what extent do you agree? To what extent, how much do you trust the governor to mean what he says and says what it means? And we look at areas of competence. Coming down to social equity, how inclusive are the initiatives, programs, and policies of the governor? In terms of innovation, how well does the governor think out of the box and actively implement creative solutions for smooth governance and the impact that is needed? We come down to culture, how inclusive, how diversified. Is everyone treated fairly regardless of political, religious, gender, or ethnic affiliations? A few caveats before we go into the methodology segment. This survey report should be taken as a summation of the respondents' perception of the various state governors, and not necessarily a performance scorecard. It's a summation of the people's perception. 2, overall, the findings from this study are meant to provide an objective amplification of the public sentiments, perception, and level of reputational collateral that these state governors command. Those are the caveats. Now we move on to the methodology. In simple terms, the overarching objective is to evaluate the perception and reputation of governance across these 36 states of the Federation, with a focal point on the governors, to ensure there is no bias, to ensure that our study is representative of the people's emotion, perception, sentiments. We ensured our survey broadly excluded conditions. 1, non-citizens of Nigerians were excluded. Appointees. were also excluded for obvious reasons. Current employees of any and all of the political parties were also excluded from this particular study to ensure objectivity. Now, when we come to the survey audience, we focus on adult Nigerian citizens resident in Nigeria and above 18 plus years. When we look at the data characteristics, urban dwellers comprise of the majority, while rural dwellers made up a smaller percentage, accounting for about 15%, which further influenced the data collation approach. Surveys were administered through an optimized web link with structured questionnaire that I showed you earlier. And this was done and administered across the 36 states of the Federation. Major emphasis was on urban centers in each state capital. Let's look at the numbers. Let's look at the statistics. A total of 3,921 respondents responded to the survey questions across the 6 geopolitical zones and across the 36 states of the Federation. Let's look at the demographics in terms of the sample distribution. If you look at the gender distribution, we had about 52% male responding to the survey, while 48% female also responded. The age distribution became more dynamic and more interesting. Gen Alphas, Millennials, and Gen Zs took the shine, accounting for about over 72% of the respondents across each of the 36 states. When we come down to the stakeholder groups, civic society also had their say, wanted their voice to be heard. We had responses from civil society, from public relations practitioners, from journalists, from media practitioners, from advertising, and across Nigeria economy. Now let's go straight to the key findings. Let's go straight to the key findings. I will take these key findings in 2 segments. One is I want us to look at the overall governance reputation. The overall governance reputation. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the set of governance across Nigeria as at today. Across Nigeria as at today. The collective reputation of state governors is perceived as having below average reputation. Remember that we said that the below has a score range of 40 to 59. The average RUPI score across Nigeria, as far as governance is concerned, stands at 56.7% RUPI score, which is below average. The key drivers of this perception are weak performance and low credibility. The key factors or the key drivers of this weak or below average perception are weak performance and low credibility. The average RUPI score, like I said, stands at 56.7. With now, this is interesting. It has a notable disparity across region and states. A notable disparity across region and states, and we'll get to that shortly. Before I go further, let's also look at the analysis of the demographics that we have talked about. Remember, I said that the age distribution provided or offers some insightful indices that we need to look at. For instance, the young respondents, Gen Alphas and Gen Zs, from age 18 to 24 and 25 to about 34, showed more critical views, particularly on performance and innovation. They showed more critical views on performance and innovation. They didn't take it easy on the governors. For the older respondents, 45 plus and above, They tend to rate social equity and culture higher. Remember that social equity and culture are two of the 6 pillars of reputation, reflecting a possible prioritization of stability and inclusivity. When we go into the income groups, the higher income groups rated innovation and credibility higher, indicating a preference for forward-thinking and reliable governance. These are the higher income groups, a preference for forward-thinking and reliable governance. For the lower income groups, it's a different ballgame. The lower income groups emphasize performance and social equity. In other words, highlighting need for tangible results, tangible results, and fairness. The next thing we're going to look at are the regional insights and reputational disparities. This prints across regions. Southwest, driven by Oyo and Osun states, respectively, both have relative better perception of governance in that region, while reputation perception is lowest in the Northeast, driven by Adamawa. Let me give you some insights. Oyo and Osun states, like I said, have the highest reputation scores, with Oyo achieving an excellent rating in terms of reputation, and Osun achieving an excellent rating also in terms of reputation. In the Northeast, this region show the lowest reputation score, with Adamawa, like I said, scoring as low as 9. Significant gap, like I said earlier, exists between and lowest rated governors across these regions. Let's give it some context. Without going into the top 9 governors in terms of the RUPI index, I present to you the top 9 governors in terms of reputation and perception. Overall, respondents perceive the collective reputation of the said governors as below average, as I said in the earlier slide. That is the verdict. The below average governance reputation is driven, like I said earlier, mainly by performance and low credibility. Performance-wise, respondents feel that the governors are not meeting expectations and the leaders lack a meaningful edge to what, in terms of what they need to do. The main underlying is low credibility. Is the feeling that many governors lack the requisite competence. Remember that competence is one of the attributes of the credibility pillar to discharge their responsibilities in all of their offices. Then looking at the bottom 3, while these governors numerically headline the least rated and most poorly perceived from a public governance standpoint, it is worth mentioning that respondents perceive the reputation of 14 out of the 36 state governors appraised to be very weak on the reputation perception index. Pointedly, and more importantly, a sizable gap. Remember, I said that there is a huge disparity. A sizable gap exists between the cluster above average reputation and those rated excellent, and those are just about 25%. This further heightens the discrepancy in the quality of governance accessible to respondents across the country's various states. Now we are going to look at perceptions and reputation scorecard across the regions. We start with this is more of a peer-to-peer review. We start with the Southwest. From what you can see on the scorecard, the governors of Oyo and Osun State achieved an excellent reputation rating. For a sitting governor like Makinde, Governor Makinde of Oyo State. His own excellent perception is reputation perception is noteworthy, scoring excellent in each of the pillar of reputation, from leadership, performance, credibility, social equity, innovation, and culture, having a total RPI score of 92.7%. This is closely followed by Governor Adeleke of Osun, and also having or achieving excellent rating in terms of reputation on each pillar of the RPI framework. Follow closely is the governor of Ondo State, Governor Lucky, and the governor of Lagos State, Governor Sanwo-Olu, who said in the zone, in the RPI zone of an above the average reputation. We believe that with a little tweak on the pillars of credibility and on these two governors could on the elitist list of excellent governors. Only in Ogun State do the respondents have a noticeably weak perception of the governor, with an RPI score of, I mean, it actually falls in the zone of a very weak reputation, standing at 23.5 RPI score. Now let's go down to the North Central. In the North Central, respondents' perception of North Central governors falls below average, with only Governor Umar Bago of Niger State in a lead position, scoring excellent in each of the pillars of reputation. His total RPI score stands at 90.1%. Performance and innovation presents the governor of Plateau State the opportunity to further enhance its reputation, because it stands on an RPI score of 69.7%, but came very weak, okay, on the pillars of performance and the pillars of innovation. These are the two it probably needs to work on. I move on to the next scorecard, which is the Northwest. In the Northwest, the top three most reputable governors in the Northwest are the governors of state, Kaduna State, and Jigawa State. And Jigawa State, they are perceived to have excellent leadership qualities. From what you can see in the RPI score, if you zoom to the leadership performance, you will see that Governor Diko, Governor Ubasani, and Governor Namadi of Jigawa State all scored excellent on the leadership pillar. And if you also look at the total RPI score, they also stand out of the crowd. For Governor Bago, what makes his own interest of Katsina State highly? One, a promise keeper. Oh my God. Governor Diko, rather, his constituents particularly regard him highly for two things. One, for being a promise keeper with his own agenda and promises. And two, for being unique from other governors in the country. He has an RPI score of 94.4 and comes under the top 9 governors that we showed earlier. Now coming on to
Mr. Achi.
Yes.
Do you notice that there's a hacker on one of the participants?
Yes, I noticed. I declined access.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah, I declined access. Thank you. Okay, so I'm on the Southeast. For the Southeast, Governor Oti of Abia State showed a glowing reputation, reflecting an excellent perception of the state's respondents of the governor. You could see that in all of the pillars of reputation, he actually scored 100% on the RPI score, with a bit more attentiveness, focusing now on with a bit more attentiveness to the performance and the pillars of innovation. Mba could also be on the verge of crossing into the esteemed governors with an excellent reputation. So he needs to work on credibility, he needs to work on innovation, he needs to work on culture to ensure inclusivity. So with a little more work on these pillars, he is on his way to becoming one of the governors with an excellent RPI score or an excellent reputation, as the case may be. Then we come down to the South-South. For the South-South, Governor Umar of Akwa Ibom and Governor Fubara of Rivers State are in the above average reputation perception zone, having a total
Celestine,
Thank you.
You actually have only 2 minutes to round up.
So Governor Umar of Akwa Ibom State and Governor Fubara of Rivers State are in the above average reputation zone with an RPI score of 80.4. Governor Diri of Bayelsa State stands out in the South-South zone. Okay, then the Northeast, which I think is the last region to look at, except for Governor Zulum of Borno State and Malabuni of Yobe State, the reputation of other governors in the region are perceived below average or weak. Governor Zulum stands out with an RPI excellent score or excellent reputation score of 87.7%. Now the question is, what are the potential implications? Let me start and round up with the decline in reputation. The overall below average, for emphasis sake, the overall below average perception suggests a general dissatisfaction with governance. The weak performance and credibility highlights the need for governors to deliver on promises and enhance their competence. There is therefore a need to focus on aligning initiatives to people's expectations. Then in terms of economic stress and governance reputation, let me say this: economic challenges may contribute to the decline in public governance reputation, The survey indicates that regions with more significant economic issues, such as the Northeast, have lower reputation scores. I round up with this. The general tone towards governance is negative. The general tone towards governance in Nigeria is negative, with citizens expressing dissatisfaction with performance and credibility, two key pillars of reputation. Regions like the Southwest exhibit a more neutral to positive sentiment due to relatively higher scores in leadership and innovation. Ladies and gentlemen, okay, somebody is trying to, okay, ladies and gentlemen, the key takeaways for us is one, need for governance enhancement. Governors must focus on improving performance and credibility. There is need for governors to be involved in strategic civic engagement for better alignment and expectations, then there is need for continuous assessment, which needs to be regular to address reputation perceptions collateral. In closing, I say the survey report highlights a critical need
Thank you
for improvement in public governance across
Celestine
Nigeria.
Achi.
Thank you.
Moderator, you, Mr. Achi. Moderator, you may come in now, please.
Good afternoon, the President and Chairman of Council of the NIPR, Council members, very distinguished members of the NIPR and guests in the House. You will agree that this has been quite an interesting and exciting session. We've gone deep into issues of reputation. And again, just to stress that this report actually shares people's perception of the governors, and that's the underlying word, perception. And we know that perception really is the key in terms of driving reputation and social standing. So thank you very much, Mr. Achi, for that brilliant presentation. We look forward to seeing the full report. I've already seen people reaching out to find out how they can get the report. So I'm sure that will be published very soon. So I'll just go ahead and share some feedback that we've gotten with regard to this this initial report from some very key stakeholders. And I don't know if the hosts, if the hosts can try to share the presentation.
Yeah,
I'm trying to do that.
Yeah.
I'm trying to do that from my end, but it doesn't seem like I'm able to.
Well, you can call for contribution
Yes.
first while we do that at this. I think Andreas is in the house. He may wish to come in and then you take more questions.
Okay, can you see my screen now though?
Yes.
Great, yes.
Okay, perfect. So maybe we just take this very quickly and then we can jump right into just a few comments. I think the Vice President on standby, as we'll be coming to you once we finish with the feedback. So we have some feedback from reputable industry partners who actually got the first view into the report before it came out to the public.
Barrister, can you play your slide so it fills our screen?
Okay, I see. Sure. Is this better now?
Yes, great.
Okay, perfect. So the first feedback we have is from the president of the African Public Relations Association. And that's really, let me say, the president of PR in Africa. All the African public relations institutions or institutes are part of APRA. And this is what he has to say, that the NIPR Reputation Perception Index Survey heralds a new era in public governance in Africa. It is not only an important tool to help the Nigerian state governors to understand reputation from the perspective of the public and to identify the areas that they can improve on, but it also sets the benchmark of how PR institutes and associations in Africa should undertake corporate perception, reputation measurements, brand perception analysis, political reputation monitoring, and public sector reputation analysis. The African Public Relations Association, APRA, Executive Council congratulates the NIPR and the Reputation Perception Services, RPS, for this elaborate survey that outlines the state of governance in Nigeria today. And social equity work that evaluates and elevates the essence of exceptional leadership. It is our conviction that this survey, if utilized effectively by all stakeholders, will enhance governance and increase stakeholder engagement. We hope that NIPR and RPS will undertake a follow-up survey as a means of tracking and highlighting improvement. That's from Mr. Arik Karani, the president of the African Public Relations Association. And we also have feedback from Madame Rain, the MD of Reputation Matters organizations that conducts a survey called Ethics in Public Relations Survey. So this is someone that's also within the industry, but from South Africa. And she says, congratulations on a really great report, very interesting insights. We also hear from Professor Justin Green, the President and CEO of Global Alliance for Public Relations and Communication Management. Again, this is the global body that warehouses public relations institutes across the world. They are in 126, I beg your pardon, countries worldwide, championing issues around public relations and communications. And Professor Green has this to say: the Global Alliance for Public Relations and Communication Management enthusiastically endorses ongoing studies into reputation and perception, especially research that fosters deep understanding between citizens and their government leadership. Such studies are indispensable for promoting transparency, trust, truth, and ethics in our global society. We congratulate NIPR and RPS on their efforts and eagerly anticipate the valuable contributions and insights this research will deliver. And finally, we hear from Karina Krerar, the CEO of Edelman Africa. For those who don't know Edelman, Edelman is actually the initiator and presenter of the Edelman Trust Barometer, where they also measure perception, reputation, and some of these issues across Africa as well. And she has this to say: I want to say how great it is to finally have some measure of reputation that so many organizations have been searching for. And other than our own Edelman Trust scoring, I haven't come across a comprehensive measure of reputation. So well done to you and your team for the great work on this so far. Ladies and gentlemen, you would see that the Reputation Perception Services has done this work according to global best practices. This went through a series of reviews from industry stakeholders, from experts in reputation services, to be sure that what we're presenting to you today meets the mark. So on this note, I'd like to open up the floor. We have about 2 minutes left, so perhaps we'll take 2 or max 3 contributions who stand by.
Sorry.
Over to you, sir.
Let me come in.
You're muted. You're muted, Mr. President. Okay, while we're waiting for Mr. President, perhaps we can start with Mr. Andres to save time, and then when Mr. President is available and able to speak.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, please. Yes.
I'm sorry. I just want to negotiate with the Vice President and his team for a few more minutes. I see many hands are up, and we have only 1.5 minutes to go. So would we wish to extend this by just 10, 15 minutes? If we don't wish, then we should close. But if we wish, then we could go on. The essence is that NIPR keeps to time. If we say it is 12 to 1, we keep to 12 to 1. But I see that it's quite interesting, some of the comments and so on. So, Vice President, may I request that we seek permission to extend this by just see that hands are Vice President. Vice President, I rule as president. Madam Moderator, please go ahead. Thank you. Take 15 more minutes. Go ahead.
Let's take Mr. Andres. Mr. Andres, are you still on the call? Is Mr. Andres still on the call? Okay, well, we're going to take the first hand up.
About a year, but it seems that his reputation, his perception is quite high. And so I think it would be good if you can clarify on this, and also the governor of result you shared, his perception index is very, very low, and how could that have come about? And I hope you can shed some light on this. Thank you very much.
governors and whoever we're engaging from the PR dimension, so that we can
has done so far. But generally, I'm not impressed with the results so far from the statistics. I said that my governor scored very high. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Madam, for keeping it quite succinct and a very brilliant question and suggestion. I believe
President of NIPR and his team for this.
This meeting is being recorded.
On the chat report, appreciation of the report. I'm right in the office, and while the lecture was going on, there were bits of distractions here and there. So I would like to lay my hands on the report, if it's possible, so I can have an in-depth study of the report. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Prince Kanu. Again, a lot of people are looking forward to the report, and we'll see how to get that across as soon as possible. Next, we'd like to hear from, my pleasure indeed. Next, we'd like to hear from His Excellency, Ambassador Elijah Onyaba, that's Nigeria's immediate past ambassador to Burundi. So you have the floor, please. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, moderator. Let me join the echo to say a very big thank you to the team that put together this report. I think very, very comprehensive enough. But let me just ask, so I like, we do with love like numbers. I wanted to find out what is this for this. The sample size changes. Do you think that will alter the reports? So it's very, very important that because if you commission should give you their statistical means or ways you can determine the right sample from a given population. So it's important important that we get that level of actually be valid. Is it like every year, or is it like by every 2 years or something? I think that's that frequency of the reports. We also need to talk about it so that people know that maybe this is where I am now. In the next 1 year and the next 2 years, I need to do certain things to improve. So the frequency should also be talked about. Thank you very much.
I see that more hands have been added.
Moderator, we can only
yes,
take one more question because we said 1:15 and it's just 1:14. So we can only take the last question. I think Godwin Adedayo, that's the last question. After that, we should have our response. The Vice President will give closing remarks, and that's it. So please go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. So we can take Mr. Godwin and perhaps Mr. Chijioke, if you can just put your question in the chat box because we were not able to hear you earlier. So that could take care of that. Mr. Adedayo, please go ahead. You have the floor.
All right, thank you very much. My name is Godwin Adedayo, just like you've recognized. I'm the... Hello?
Please go ahead, Mr. Adedayo. Thank you, Mr. Chijioke. Okay, we'll get to it.
The governor on broadcast media, a member of the Nigerian Public Relations Institute, and I really want to appreciate you guys for your efforts in recognizing, the state, the governor of the state, of my state, Osho State. It's been a great privilege, and we've been able to make it to top 9 recognized governors in Nigeria. But most importantly, I would like to performing governors in Nigeria. Why I'm asking is because I believe that we
I'd like to direct everyone's attention to the chat box
This meeting is being recorded. This meeting is being recorded.
You will see that the governor scores excellent in the aspect of sentiment analysis. But that is not the purview of this report. Sentiment analysis is very different from reputation and perception. Reputation is the way you are taken by your own citizens. And perception is contest for, or rather the challenge his election up to the Supreme Court. And then he began to demolish a number of things. And then the issue of the ML tussle came up. The reason why I'm able to say this is when they go from Northeast states, one governor that I thought is doing very, very well and is indeed a personal friend of mine, but there is nothing I can do. When the report came, I saw him bottom line. Mr. President, this is what we got from the states. Not your principal is doing very well. He said, what happened? I said, well, this is a survey that has just been done, and the council swore that we will not interfere in any way whatsoever on this process. So we didn't even know until they presented the report, and that is how it will continue. So he asked me, he said, when was this report done? I gave him the date. I said it was between June 1st, either June 1st or May 25th to June 20th, yes. And he said, it is true. I said, really? He said, yes. He said that they began to demolish illegal to demolish structures. He said, in fact, the governor had told me in confidence, I don't want to mention the name, he said he was surprised that they have not started stoning him on the streets of his state because of that action. So he said, President, people are right. If it was 8 months ago or 1 year ago, I would have said yes. But you know, since he got his second term, he's now trying to redefine the state and make sure that things are done the way they are. That is what reputation and perception would measure. I thought I should shed light on this so that we understand. So it is for citizens who are living in that state. They are the ones who are qualified to rate their governor based on what they are saying and based on what they are not saying. And again, it is work in progress. For somebody asking, what shall we do in order to move on? Yes, the essence of this is for you to know where you have failed, and then you can consult NIPR. Then we can engage you and help you to beef up. Unfortunately, we cannot help you in the reputation survey. There is nothing we can do about that because we are not involved. But we can help you to know some of the things that you can do for your people to change the way you are perceived and the kind of reputation you have. Thank you, Mr. Vice President. Over to you.
Thank you, Mr. President, for making it easier for me. I was going to invite you to still Temitope is there. Thank you also to the Chief Operating Officer of RPS, Segun Adeni James. We have the link in the chat room. You can just type rps.niprng.org.ng. You will find that there is a link. When you provide the information, Segun Adeni and his team on the RPS operations office will respond to you, because the reports are in different parts. So you need to identify what exactly you require. It's a very big report. You may choose, for instance, to have the report on just one governor. That alone can give you up to 30 to 40 pages. So it's important that you indicate what you want. But the PowerPoint slides will equally be sent to people who request for that. So thank you so much for being with us. We will be coming back again next month with another interesting version of PR Power Launch Series. I expect that the people who miss it today, you can follow this same session on our various social media handles. There's been quite a number that have been following, besides those that are in this house. We have our YouTube streaming was on and is still on. We will still have it available so you can revisit it. We were also live on the various platforms, Facebook and what have you. Thank you so much indeed. Have a nice day at work. It's actually still a Thursday, so please go back to work, and we look forward to seeing you at the end of the week. Thank you.
The recording has stopped.